The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys? Yeah!
Go Cowboys!
Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com
We were on the break!
with Nick Eatman, Brian Broaddus, Ambar Garcia, and Derek Eagleton.
It is Wednesday, November 2nd, 2022, Season 18, Episode number 64. Welcome to the latest edition of The Break. We're live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Start, presented by Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. And for a second day in a row, I've got Aisha Morrison. I've got Barry Church joining me. Aisha's from Girls Talk, Boys Talk. Barry's from Players Lounge. And as we're doing throughout all of our podcasts, we're mixing it up this week. And I think we had a really good show yesterday. I told those folks on the break that you did that with me, I was like, y'all might want to check this out. Like,
want to get your life together.
Your seats are
getting hot out here.
Yeah, you got some people over here that's doing some good stuff. So we're gonna finish that today. We're gonna actually get into more of that mid-year review. We got some more questions for you guys.
I know those.
My heart racing now.
Them questions had me last night at home thinking, did I could have.
Yeah.
I was second guessing myself.
It was the Quinn Dak one for me. I was like, man.
It hurt me. I told you it hurt me.
The funny thing is that's why I don't send the rundown for stuff like this, is because I want to get your opinion without you having to put it through a filter. I want to get exactly what's on your mind,
No doubt.
in the moment. And that's what I got yesterday.
Got Riddler vibes going
telling
on
you.
here.
So we got some of that, and then we also will get to some questions. So if you guys want to send some questions, you can hit me on Twitter, send some questions, and you can also call us. We might get to some of those in the third segment. 888-855-2297 is our number. Let's start first with yesterday was the day that the NFL had its deadline for trades. It came and went, and the Cowboys
Sure did.
made no moves.
No moves.
How disappointed were you guys that the Cowboys didn't make a move?
I don't know. I guess I was a little, disappointed just because of all of the conversation. But then, when I rationalized it, I was like, all right. I mean, because you got to get over it. It's nothing. A deadline's a deadline, right? So at this point, I'm like, all right, this is what you got. Let's keep working. That's how I work. Sorry.
No doubt. I was slightly disappointed as well, especially, after I heard all the, Brandon Cook situation going on between the Cowboys and the Texans and how it came down to the last minute. Not sure if that really how it went down, but I was slightly disappointed because we talked about it yesterday. And, with these wide receivers, okay, you got CeeDee Lamb. But if anything, God forbid, anything ever were to happen to CeeDee Lamb, I mean, that wide receiver core, you're talking about Noah Brown, a Gallup coming off ACL, Turpin, who hasn't really, ingratiated himself into this offense yet. So, to me, Cooks would have been that perfect guy to come in here and do things. But it came and it went and nothing happened. So, I guess they're satisfied with what they got on the outside. And hopefully this team can take the most of it.
Yeah, I think that's the key right there is if everything goes according to plan, if everybody stays healthy, then you might be okay. That's the part that worries me. You got a lot of ifs, and then you might be okay. And so you just, at this point, you're just crossing your fingers and hoping that these guys stay healthy. You're hoping that they continue to build on that development or some of that success that they saw last week. You hope that these tight ends stay healthy as well because they supplement that wide receiving core.
A lot, yes.
And that's I think they are a strength for this team. So you're hoping on a lot of things. Hope is not a strategy, but you're hoping on a lot of things right now, and we'll see how it goes down the stretch. It's really interesting because when you start thinking about the NFC, and we're going to talk about this a little later, one of the questions I have for you guys, what you think about the NFC, and people say it's wide open. I don't know that it's necessarily wide open because you do have some teams right there at the top that are pretty good. Trying to beat Philadelphia is going to be a challenge. Minnesota is going to be a challenge. And I tend to believe one of those teams, whether it's Green Bay, Tampa Bay, somebody we're not talking about right now that has one of those all-world quarterbacks is going to get hot at some point.
They're going to figure it out.
Right. And does Green Bay get hot the week you play them next week, right? So there are all those things you got to factor into this, and I just don't think the NFC is just as wide open as everybody says it is. It may not be as top-heavy as AFC when you got those two top teams there, But it's definitely had some challenges, and the Cowboys are going to need some help to get there, I think.
Without a doubt, like you said, it's not as wide open as people would come to think about it, because there's some bad matchups for the Cowboys. And I can think of 3 off the top of my head. You're looking at Philly, who they've already gone against. They can run the ball extremely well. And we all know that's kind of the Achilles heel of this Dan Quinn defense, is allowing the rush. I think they're, 20th or 21st in the league against the run. So they got to fix that. So Philly, to me, is a bad matchup. Then you also look at what they're doing in Minnesota. They got Delvin Cook out there. Kirk Cousins is having one of his best seasons as a professional so far. So to me, that's a bad matchup as well. And they can play defense a little bit over there. They can get after the pass rusher. Exactly. Right. So. And a team that's, right now they're in the middle, but I think they're going to catch a little bit, is the San Francisco 49ers.
We saw that last year. This is the exact same season they had last year.
We've seen it.
Nerves.
And then they got CMC out there. He's starting to do his thing. They can run the football as well, and they're a hard-nosed defense. We've seen that gives the Cowboys problems in the past. So it's not as wide open as you would think. There's some teams that have bad matchups for the Dallas Cowboys. Let's look forward to see what they can do against them.
No, you definitely named some of the teams that I've been looking at, and just kind of how when you look at Minnesota, 49ers know who they are. They have an identity. You look at Minnesota, they look like they're starting to find their identity again, because offensively, I feel like they've been very up and down the last couple of years. And then also, too, you start talking about Green Bay and those places. I mean, granted, right now, when you look at what's happening with some of these teams, they also are in this place where their wide receivers are young and they're trying to develop their team. So you are looking to see if they start figuring things out later in the season as, these players develop. But when you start talking about getting into December, it's about to start looking crazy for a lot of teams, because when it gets cold, a lot more guys get injured. Like, your muscles feel different. Your body feel different. Like, when it starts getting cold, and also when you start talking about the Cowboys in the November, they have that stretch where it's like 3 games, 12 days or something that. So health, I think, in this time of the year is what's going to really start making the difference with what we're going to see this NFC shape out to, because everything's gravy with a lot of these teams right now. Like, we ain't got nobody hurt, everybody fine. Yeah, okay. Let's see in a couple weeks. What everything is starting to pan out and look like.
Yeah, and let's not forget about Seattle as well. I forgot to throw them in there as well.
Because Geno is up there.
He's doing his thing.
And nobody expected it. That's why nobody's talking about it. Yeah. But they are they got a good defense. Their defense is good. Geno's playing good ball. Obviously, he's got those 2 receivers out there. They also can run the ball. Like, there's a lot of things about that team that should make you a little bit concerned. Dallas Cowboys. Let me ask you guys this question. Last week, the Cowboys make their move as far as a trade is concerned. They get Jonathan Hankins, and I think we all agree that Jonathan Hankins was a nice addition for the team. Do you think we'd have a different opinion of what they did at the deadline if they'd have made that move yesterday as opposed to last week?
No. People are still, because... No.
Well, I'm not talking about general fans, because general fans, they're never going to be happy. We know that.
This is true.
Like, they're not going to be happy. We know that.
So you asking about
I'm saying you guys, would you, and both you guys said you were a little disappointed. I also was a little disappointed yesterday they didn't make a move. But would you have felt differently if Hankins would have happened yesterday?
I mean, maybe, I guess. I mean, because they are actively addressing a need. Like a real, or obviously a real need. So it's like, but I guess, I mean, obviously everyone is looking for or hoping for that splash player or a player offensively. I think most of the worry here is offense, rather, for most people. So the addition to the defense would be like, it was great. Like, I think it's fantastic, but I think obviously, like, the wide receiver position is what people are worried about right now.
No doubt. I think I would have felt a little bit better if it happened like now, because it happened, it happened, last week, and we're thinking, I know it's early, him, just being here, we're thinking, okay, he's going to come in here and make an immediate impact for this rush defense. He came in there, and Chicago still put up 240 yards on the ground.
But when he was in there, though, he was...
Yeah, but, and I saw this. I'll throw this out. Michael Gelkin covers the Cowboys for Dallas Morning News. He put out an interesting tweet, and I thought it was really, really well done, because what he said in the tweet was basically he broke down the number of plays when Hankins was on the field versus when not. And when Hankins was on the field, they averaged 3.5 yards per carry. And he had kind of this video montage he put together of the different plays that Hankins was out there. Yeah, it wasn't nothing coming through there. Like, he was manning that middle of that defense.
Teams that, like we talked about yesterday, like, it's good for them to be putting out like this better tape. I think it's going to be important for people to see that if you don't double team him, I mean, lights out, because he has the ability to get off of blocks and definitely get in there and make tackles.
And the question becomes, how much can he take, right? if the number of snaps that he got this last game is indicative of what he's going to get down the stretch, and that still leaves you exposed quite a bit because, as you said, they still put up 240 yards, right? If you think you can increase that and he's actually going to be out there a lot more, now you can feel like, okay, as the Cowboys, you can feel like, okay, we might solve this problem because we know with time he'll get more snaps, and with more snaps, we think our run defense will be a lot better. Otherwise, teams will just say, when Hankins is out there, we're not going to run as much.
Exactly.
When he's on the sideline, hey, load him up. Let's go.
Let's get going. And that's the thing. Can he be, I'm not looking for him to be a 3-down lineman because, every down, the pass rush and all that stuff, I understand that. There's going to be some rotation in there. But can he be a 1st and 2nd down run stopper for the entirety of the game? Yep. That's what it's going to come down to. Conditioning-wise, is he going to be able to take that beating? Because being a big body in there, he's there to basically make sure those offensive linemen don't get to the second level and gobble up in running lanes. So he's going to be taking hits left and right from double teams, all types of stuff, trying to move him out of the way. Can he take that punishment for the entirety of the game and for the rest of the season? I mean, the jury's still out on that. But for him, like you said, 3.5 yards a rush while he's in there, that's huge for this rush defense overall.
Well, I also think that takes some pressure off of Bohanna, who's been playing, a lot more nose, I guess, than what he would normally do. Having a true nose in there right now makes a difference. So I would wonder if they're going to be able to find some packages that work, with Bohanna there and maybe Neville next to him to kind of put some more size in there if he's not out there.
That's a big middle right there.
It is, absolutely. But, when you're talking about the run defense, that's the biggest concern. Yep. But I do, like I said, teams should see that running up the middle when he's there is probably not gonna be your best bet. You might want to run it there.
Yeah, he might just be the best 2-gap guy you got on this team.
Oh my goodness,
because
the decision making.
Yeah, and you saw it on some of those plays, but I mean, he's on the right side, he's showing right, and then they go left, and he immediately flashes left, and he's right there in the way. Right, it's and for a big guy, and a number of times he's taking double teams, so he's doing everything you want a traditional big guy in the middle, one technique type guy to be able to do. He's doing it. He showed that in that last game. Question is, how much can they use him? How often can he be on the field? And when he's off, how much is the decline if he's off the field?
And I love the addition because, he's a vet and he understands his role. A lot of guys go in there, I'm getting after the pass rush. I got to get a sack. I got to get these numbers up. So you're not really doing what you're supposed to do as a unit. But this guy, he understands, like you said, he's sitting there holding that 2-gap. Let me shed this guy to the right. Let me shed this guy to the left. I'm not necessarily concerned with getting too much upfield to get after the quarterback because a lot of times that's what happens in a run defense. You see guys just, my ears are pent back. Let me get after this pass rusher. And that creates lanes for the running back to get through. If you got a guy like Hankins in there that understands his responsibility, understands how to play as a unit, it should prove huge dividends for this defensive line and his defense overall.
I think that's important too. I'm sorry if I can answer that point. I think that's important too when you talk about the locker room. You got a lot of young players on that defensive line, right? And so this is actually something that I heard Tank talking about on 105.3 Defend, just, mentioning the gap integrity and stuff like that, and guys kind of chasing, in some of our words, chasing sacks and just, so I think it's important that he's coming in here and he's kind of sets the tone, sets the precedence for, hey, this is your responsibility. This is what you play. We talk about just bringing veterans in. Jason Peters, with the left tackle Tyler Smith. I think it's a similar situation with this young DT room for him to come in here and be like, play your assignment. To show what playing your assignment does and how consistently what that does for you and your team.
And he's got the skins on the wall. I've been here 10 years.
Tracking.
You can do this, and you can play for a long time in this league doing your job. You don't have to have the sacks. You can do your job and play a long time.
Yeah, and 2-gapping is not an easy technique to just gather. I mean, honestly, we saw in 2020 when guys were 2-gapping, it was late struggle, right? So it's like, hey, for him to come in here and do that well is going to be important for this team. So, yeah.
All right, one other thing I wanted to hit real quick before we take our break. Cowboys did make a move yesterday. They released Tristan Hill. Were you guys surprised at all by that move?
Honestly, so listen, this is a dope thing because y'all know I'm new here, right? So on my YouTube in March, I said Tristan Hill's gonna make this team, because the ferocity he plays with, the motor, all that stuff points to what Dan Quinn still and I think that's why he continued to try to develop and everything. But I was surprised. I was like, dang. I was like, dang. It was kind of random, but then I thought about it. It makes sense given what's going on at the DT position. Obviously, you're trying to get more size in there, trying to really stop the run. Tristan is more of a, pass rush guy, get upfield guy, really aggressive guy. So when it made sense because you get so much pass rush, like maybe you're not really looking for a lot of pass rush from your DTs right now. So the move made sense. It still was shocking to me to some degree.
Yeah, without a doubt, it definitely made sense. And, I wasn't too surprised by this because if you look at it, even though, Tristan Hill was having a great start to his young career, if you look at what he's done in 3.5 years with the Dallas Cowboys, 33 tackles and a half a sack, With that type of production and as deep as this defensive line is, it's going to be hard for him to get on the field. And with that being said, hopefully, he finds, where he's going, after the Cowboys. But with that type of production, it's going to be hard to crack the lineup.
Yeah, and I don't think he ever really fulfilled what they expected out of him being a second-round pick. I think their expectations were that he would be way more involved, way more productive, as you were talking about, than he's been. So, again, when you're talking about a room that's deep, when you're talking about a defensive line that's deep, when you talk about defensive linemen now that might be coming back here soon in Terrell Basham, there's a lot of things that you have to consider. And I just think that it just was, hey, this is just the way we have to go because that's where we are with this player.
And different regime. That matters. It matters. When you start looking at, this locker room, a lot of these guys are guys that have been drafted here, in this last couple years. So I just feel like I think it mattered that he came from a different regime and the way that Dan Quinn plays defense is what he's teaching. So maybe they just, like I said, maybe they want to just beef up in the middle and go about their business.
Yeah. All right, we'll take our first break. When we come back, we'll jump into our mid-year review. We got more questions for these guys. We'll do it when we come back. DallasCowboys.com radio.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
What do you call a group of grown men and women with their faces painted silver and blue who get together every week to share a 3-hour-long ritual of jumping, singing, and toasting Miller Lite in 10-gallon hats while yelling, "How about them Cowboys?" You call it Miller Time in Dallas. Here's to the Cowboys. Here's to the original light beer. It's Miller Time. Celebrate responsibly. 2021 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black? Right now you can get the Jack Black Starter, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The starter includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites plus a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Go to getjackblack.com/Cowboys and use the code word TEAMJB. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys. The Jack Black Starter, $10, free shipping.
When you build, you start with the foundation. And home ownership is a foundation of a stable future. The Bank of America Community Homeownership Commitment has helped over 34,000 people lay the groundwork so far, with up to $10,000 towards your down payment or 3% of the purchase price, whichever is less. The satisfaction of owning your own place can become a reality. Visit bankofamerica.com/homeowner to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America NA, Equal Housing Lender. Credit and collateral is subject to approval. Restrictions apply. This is not a commitment to lend.
Back to the break.
Multi-Grammy Award-winning global superstar Ed Sheeran comes to AT&T Stadium on Saturday, May 6th to kick off his 2023 Mathematics Tour. Sheeran will be accompanied by special guests Khaled and Dylan. Get your tickets today at SeatGeek.com, the official ticketing provider of AT&T Stadium. Welcome back. It is the second segment of the Break Live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. This segment is presented by Blockchain.com. Let's get to our mid-year review. Here's some questions for you guys. The first one: the player who has been newly added that will provide the most for this team down the stretch on the defense. The options are Jonathan Hankins or Damone Clark.
Barnacles, but one begets the other.
Yeah.
Okay, you only can choose one.
Putting you on the spot.
You only can choose one.
Tater tots. What's more important right now?
I love your one. I love the one-liners.
I'm trying to think what's more important right at this point in time. I think maybe it doesn't make sense football-wise, but I think what's hurting you more right now with plays downfield and making your cornerbacks having to come up and tackle in places where maybe they shouldn't be having to tackle is the linebacker position.
Okay.
So, Damone Clark for you.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
I love that decision because, like we talked about yesterday, LVE, Barr, I love what they're doing out there. They're solid. They're playing well sideline to sideline, but at that point of attack, I just don't see it. I just see the leaky yardage. We saw the other day when Montgomery, LVE made a heck of a tackle in the open field, but if Montgomery doesn't fumble that, he's falling forward for extra 3-4 yards, and I've seen too much of that. But with that being said, I got to go with Hankins. Out here, and we just talked about it, how when he's on the field, his presence in the run game is outstanding. He's, like you said, he's shedding blockers out there, stuffing these run lanes, making sure these offensive linemen aren't getting to the second level to go against our second-level defenders, LVE, Barr. When you get those walk-down safeties, Curse and Wilson, as a former safety, I'm telling you, when you get down there and you got a clear view of everything, it makes your job a heck of a lot easier. Because when you got those offensive linemen coming up at you, your first initial thought is you got to avoid, because you're a smaller guy. You got to avoid, and that creates an even bigger lane for the runner to do that. So I got to go with Hankins. He's keeping those offensive linemen off our second-level defenders, and hopefully he can do that for the remainder of this season.
You're wrong.
Well, here's the interesting thing, though. If Damone Clark ends up being what he was projected to be,
I'm a faint.
Then I think Damone Clark may actually provide more, because I think if he can become that, he is an every down type.
We talking about this year or like in future?
Well, but that's what I'm saying. Okay. I don't know, and I don't know how fast he can acquiesce to that. What I will tell you is, this is a guy, we noticed this back during training camp. Obviously, he was not playing, was not practicing at all. He was over on the sideline. I don't think I've ever seen a player do this. He was on the sideline during training camp practices, watching the defense and kind of mimicking what he would be doing in these situations. Like, he is taking mental reps while he is not going to play for 6-7 weeks, but he's taking mental reps in training camp practices and literally working his body and trying to get muscle memory for, okay, on this play, I see this, I do this, this is how I react, this is how I respond. And that spoke volumes to me. And by the way, it might not be a big deal, but to me what it said was, this is one of those guys that just loves the game. He just loves the game. And when you find players who just love the game, I have a feeling like if they've got the talent, then that's the ones that become really, really good.
Oh, without a doubt.
Because they will pour everything they got into it. And we talked to him and we talked to Micah after the game, and both of them were talking about their relationship and how their relationship started. Immediately after he got drafted, he hit up Micah and he's like, hey, man, I want to get on your wing. Like, I need to know what's going on. And he's not even going to be playing. But he's already, and Micah said, and we're always, spending time. And Micah was the one that said he loves the game. He just loves football. So when you start thinking about it from that perspective, I'm like, I'm not going to put anything past Damone Clark.
Okay.
And the talent certainly is there. I think he's a guy that most draft analysts said would have been a first, second round pick, but not for the injury. So I'm looking at that and saying, Barr might want to hurry and get back.
Oh, yeah.
Because the more time he's out, the more time this young buck has an opportunity to maybe step in there and show him something. And again, one of the things about him that is he was in what they talked about is in pre-draft was not only is he good at stopping the run as far as a tackler, getting to the ball sideline to sideline, he's also good at coverage. So again, he becomes a player that maybe is out there on every single down. If he can get to that level this year, toward the end of this year even, that's going to be as valuable as any other thing on this team, especially if he's a playmaking type linebacker.
Yeah, he's early. To our standards, in our minds, like, he's early. But I think that is a testament of his work ethic. I talked about it on our show, shouted him out, like, can't discount his work ethic and how he got here. But when you look at his history, I don't know a whole bunch about LSU because I'm just now getting into college ball, y'all.
Don't get Brian started. Brian's on my show. He's an LSU guy.
It's too many options.
We'll talk forever about LSU guys.
But from my knowledge, him wearing that number 18 is a big deal. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when you start looking at LSU, some of the great players we've seen come out of that college in this last couple of years, especially, hey man, you got to think like it's not just about the football, right? So I'm not surprised by that, the fact that he was even doing that. I'm also not surprised at this fact that he out there because people have spoken so highly of him. I took a deep dive after we drafted after the Cowboys drafted him into his character. But I do agree with you that this guy is like right now he's just playing instinctively. He just But Dan Quinn I think even talked about not Dan Quinn. It was George Edwards talked about him even reading some things correctly that maybe he wasn't. Maybe they didn't expect for him to just know already, but that lets you know he's in his books. I think the processing is something that he's going to work on and continue. And because he's kind of early, he has almost half of a season possibly to come in and start getting those mental reps. And who better to be paired with than Micah? It sounds like they're like-minded because it's one thing that Micah talks about, his love for football, and he talks about it being played the right way, the correct way. So I think that it's interesting that Micah is an example out here, for what players want to be. So I'm excited to see those guys together. I didn't know that. That's good to know that they already are gelling and connecting like that.
And another thing to note, I don't know if you guys saw it. I saw a tweet earlier this week. Can't remember who it was from, but they said that Next Gen Stats had him running in this last game, had Damone Clark running at, I think, 22 point something miles per hour.
He was moving.
He can run.
The fastest that any player on the Cowboys has run this season. That tells you a lot. And Micah even said, you know how competitive Micah is. He's like, yeah, he's faster than me. Like, he even admitted it. And that Damone Clark can run. So you get a linebacker that can really run.
Get that horizontal
once they figure it out and the game slows down a little bit for them, look out, man. I'm telling you, this is going to be quite a pick for the Cowboys. And I don't know if you're going to see the full extent of it this year or wait till next year, but at some point, this one's going to pay off, I think.
Yeah, you love to see it. And what makes that quality you talk about is him being, a learner. He's coachable out there, and he loves to learn and everything like that. Because there's some guys like myself, when I was playing, I treated it like a job. Like, this is my job. Like, I liked football, but I wasn't in love with football. And there's other guys that go from good to great. Like Sean Lee, he was entrenched in football. Like, he took it here. He took it home. He was everywhere. Football, that was his life, was football. And that's what made him so great. So hopefully, Damone Clark, he can have those same characteristics where I love the game. I want to learn about the game. I want it to be a part of me 24/7. And it sounds like he has that mentality already.
All right, next question for you guys. If Tyron Smith returns in December, who would be your starting 5 offensive linemen?
There you go. Don't just be staring at me.
If Tyron Smith comes back, if he's back in December, my starting offensive line will be Tyler Smith at the left guard, McGovern at the left guard, Tyler Smith at the left tackle, McGovern at the left guard, Biotish at the center, Zach Martin at right guard, and Terrence Steele at the right tackle.
So Tyron is not getting his job back.
No, he's not getting his job back. And the reason I say that is because by that time, this unit will have already gelled. And they're playing good football right now. As you see, they're protecting Dak Prescott out there. They're moving people out of the way for this running game to get going. I understand the player that Tyron Smith is when he's healthy. He's a heck of a player, Hall of Fame resume. I get all that. But as this unit, they're gelled right now. I don't want to see, because that's going to be a rotation. And an offensive line, you can't really have a rotation like that. Like, I hated when they had Peters rotating in from McGovern. Like, let the guy get established in the game. Let him get that momentum. Let him understand how the play calling's going and get a feel for the game. When you guys rotate like that, it gets people, out of whack. I can see if it was a D-line, because D-line, you got to rotate. You got to get fresh bodies in there to get after the quarterback. But there's some units where you don't need to rotate. And to me, safety, you don't need to rotate. Secondary, like corner, no rotation. Linebacker, no rotation. Offensive line, no rotation. To me, stick with the unit that's getting things done. When you add a guy like Tyron Smith in there, I understand Hall of Fame resume, like I said, but I just think it'll mess up the gel a little bit. And these guys, right now, they're understanding the strengths and the weaknesses of each other. All right, I got to help this guy on this play because he's not as strong here, or I got to make sure this guy has my back because I'm kind of weak in this situation. They understand each other's strengths and weaknesses out there, and I think if you add Tyron Smith in there on a rotation basis, I just think it'll mess up the whole continuity of the offensive line. So I understand he's a Hall of Fame player, but to me, keep that unit going. They're playing pretty well right now.
Yeah, it's the struggle of the conversation of best 5 right now. And I do think Cowboys got some road games coming up here later in the season that I think the communication and stuff is going to matter on this offensive line. And when you do start talking about continuity, again, I think that is important moving into some of this latter part of your season when you're going to be going to places like a Lambeau and all these, like it's loud in these places. And so also, I think that was a problem. When you start looking back at last year, I think that was a problem that arose in the 49ers game, is that the offensive line, there was communication errors everywhere. And I think that was a product. I think the false starts and the mistakes were a product of a lot of miscommunication. And also, when you start talking about your offensive line, it's not just about the offensive line, it's about your quarterback too. And your quarterback is just now getting back and starting to gel with these guys and get that cadence together and get that timing together. So I also do worry about, them coming in, bringing Tyron in and Tyler being moved. I don't know. I still think it's still a possibility just because of the seniority that's involved and stuff. But I agree with you, Barry, that if you don't want to break up that continuity, that probably is the best bet, to just keep Tyler where he is and have McGovern there. But how do you find ways to? Do you find ways to get Tyron on the field?
They're going to find a way.
I'll tell you this, and you heard Jerry Jones. He was on 105.3 The Fan earlier this week, and I heard him say when they asked him about Tyron Smith, he said, look, Tyron, it's hard to think. And actually, it might have been Steven now that I think about it, but it was one of the two of them. And he said it's hard to imagine that Tyron Smith is not one of your top 5 offensive linemen. So he's going to play football is what we would expect. Now, and here's the deal. I do expect, because of being around here so long and seeing how things are typically done, I would be shocked if Tyron doesn't come back and get his job back. Yeah. Because I just think they kind of operate like that around here. Now, I agree with you, Barry. I don't think it's necessarily the right answer. Yeah. And the reason why I don't is more so about the future. If you know Tyron is not your long-term answer, which I think everybody agrees that that's probably the case. He's toward the end of his career. And you've now identified the solution. Yeah. Like, you've already identified it. He is playing well. Now, he's not perfect. I get that. But he's playing well. I don't want to sit that guy down. No. I kind of want to get him out there. Now, there's also the convention of the wisdom that sometimes people say, well, sometimes a young guy can learn after he's played some. Sitting down a little bit sometimes can give him a chance to kind of take his breath and learn even more from the sideline. And I don't know if that I necessarily buy that when you're talking about an offensive lineman. So for me, I would rather just keep the guy going. And I'll also throw in this other little thing. Going back to training camp this year, I don't think Tyron was playing as we know Tyron is capable
That's
of playing.
A good point. I mean,
and if Tyron comes back and he's not the Pro Bowl Tyron
after weeks,
if he's the guy that we saw during training camp, I don't know that I want to go to that from what Tyler is doing right now to stop Tyler's development. That's not worth it to me, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, no. I agree. I guess I've thought about that, but I didn't think to bring it up. Is the fact that Tyron, when you looked at him in camp, it wasn't always what you expect to see from Tyron. And then also too, again, this is an extension of what some of the things we saw later last year as well. So I want to be fair to the Rook and his development and what he is doing. And like we talked about, Barry, it matters going into the latter part of the season that your left tackle is confident also. You want him to be confident in that you want him to be confident in his ability. And so I don't want to diminish that also by bringing in and just giving him his spot back. Is that how we work here?
Nah. Look,
I thought it was a meritocracy.
That, and that's actually an interesting point, because if Tony Romo can lose his job to injury, then anybody can lose his job to injury, right?
But y'all know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I know what's going to happen. Barry, come on.
Tyron's going to get. I don't want it to happen, but he's going to get his spot back.
I have a hard time thinking he's not. I really do.
LC, what was that last year? Yeah. The man, self-inflicting, 5 games off. Terrence Steele was playing great ball. All of a sudden, boom, he's back in the lineup. If you're one of those favorites, they're going to find a way to put you in the lineup. And look, I don't think it's the right thing to do, but we all know what's going to happen. He's going to slide in there on some type of rotational basis, and it might mess up the continuity, but it is what it is.
And let's also be. Go ahead.
Sorry. If it makes sense in some packages, I'm not going to complain about it. But at the same time, I don't know. I guess it just depends on who you're playing and how Kellen uses them, if he does, if it's just a situational thing. But I think that the starting 5 should stay the way it is.
But we also have to remember too that, and this is being fair to the coaches and the front office, sometimes hard to get past history. When you have history with a guy where you know him to be great, and Tyron Smith for his career here has been great.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and there have been some situations where he played through injuries and was still great. And so it's hard sometimes to get your mind to get past, this guy isn't great anymore. Like, you just keep saying, look, he might have some struggles here or there, but I still know this guy as being great. And so it is harder, and that's why I think sometimes you see the vet come back and the vet's going to get his job, because the coaches, the front office still look at him and say, man, this guy, I've seen him be great, and I trust the fact that he's going to be great. And until they are proven wrong beyond a shadow of doubt, they're going to keep rolling with the fact that he's going to be great. So, and by the way, let's also be clear. I'm not saying that Tyron Smith will come back and all of a sudden he's giving up 3-4 sacks a game. That's not going to be the case. Tyron Smith will be a good player. I just don't know if for a good player, I'm willing to stop the progress of my rookie. I would need him to be great for me to want to stop the progress of my rookie, and I'm not sure he's that anymore.
Yeah, and like we talked about in camp, Tyler Smith got all his reps at guard, everything at guard, and they just threw him in the fire. And he's doing an excellent job, in my opinion, at that left tackle position. So, why would you block that? For a guy who's, on his last leg, we understand that he's dealt with a lot of injuries. And for the goal that you guys are going for, like, you're going for that long run. You're trying to make it to the Super Bowl. I think continuity matters, and that offensive line matters. And if you try to mess with that going into the playoffs, I think it could be detrimental to your team.
I think it's funny. We've been begging for a Tyron backup or replacement for years now. Like, hey, you guys need to draft another left tackle just in case, just because. And you finally get one. We'll sit him down for a second. I don't know.
We see you can play. Go sit down. Go sit down for a minute. Just take a breath. We'll see you next year. Right. You'll be fine. Just take a breath.
Crazy.
All right. We're going to take our final break. We're going to come back, get more questions. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
The season is finally here. For months, we've been gearing up to win. Now it's time for the team that performs on any field. United Ag and Turf. With John Deere zero turns for mowing, compact tractors for loading, mini excavators for digging, Gator utility vehicles for hauling, implements for grading, hay tools for baling. United Ag and Turf, for winning. The official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com for more.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
This sweet! Did you get to work on time?
Yeah, but I just realized it's Sunday.
Little Sweet says head on home. Dr. Pepper's on its way. So sweet, unique. Baby, there's nothing better. I bet you've probably done something that deserves a Dr. Pepper. Did you invest your nest egg in an NFT?
Yeah, and I don't even know what that is.
It's a non-fungible token. Everyone's done something that deserves a Dr. Pepper.
When you build, you start with the foundation. And home ownership is a foundation of a stable future. The Bank of America Community Homeownership Commitment has helped over 34,000 people lay the groundwork so far, with up to $10,000 towards your down payment or 3% of the purchase price, whichever is less. The satisfaction of owning your own place can become a reality. Visit bankofamerica.com/homeowner to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America N.A. Equal Housing Lender. Credit and collateral is subject to approval. Restrictions apply. This is not a commitment to lend.
Back to the break.
The new era Emmitt Smith headwear collection is here. Choose from 6 different styles and get your favorite exclusively at your local Dallas Cowboys Pro Shop or online at shop.dallascowboys.com, a Fanatics experience. Welcome back. It is the final segment of the break, live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star, presented by Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. It is our final segment of the week. We will not have shows for the rest of this week.
Not me sad.
And
hate to see
I'm kind of sad, but also I'm kind of looking forward to a few days of enjoying nothingness. I plan to literally get into my recliner and plant myself there for like 3 days.
Not a recliner. What you got? What kind of? What's the name of it?
I have no idea. Something the wife bought. Like, she handles all that kind of stuff.
But you gonna watch Texas?
It is. Yeah, I will watch Texas. I will watch Texas. Actually,
look at you. Look, yes. What you mean?
Look, my team is not disappointing me this year because I don't have expectations.
Okay, all right.
I learned a long time ago. I don't go into the season with expectations. I'm just like, I will enjoy every game as a standalone thing. And so this weekend, I'm looking forward to another standalone opportunity to watch my team.
Is it hard to do though? Like
no.
when you watch it, it's
not
like,
when you don't have expectations.
But do you really not have like?
Yes, and I like literally me and my buddies. We'll text each other like, "Man, you watching this? Yeah, I'm watching this. Yeah, you upset? Yeah, I'm upset." But I also promised myself I'm not going to let teenagers dictate my mood.
There you go.
So,
there you go.
When this game is over, I'm going to sit back. I'm going to be like, man, they messed that one up. Oh, well. Moving on.
Teenagers dictate your mood.
I'm not going to
love that.
I did it for years.
No,
I did it for years, though. I did it for years.
That's a good way of looking at it.
I let them. They would have me hot for a whole week. I can't do it.
That was them right. It was them right here.
At least they grown. I'm letting kids dictate my mood. Like, no.
19-year-olds out here.
Yeah, I'm not
Pull
doing
yourself
that.
together.
I'm not doing that. All right, let's jump back in. We got some more questions for you guys.
I hope
let's
you
try
guys
to see how
get
many more we get.
TCU. I hope you get K-State. The TCU K-State, not the Oklahoma State.
Yeah,
K-State.
I know. I'm worried about.
Hope you have a
K-State.
good run defense.
Yeah, exactly. And we do sometimes. Other times it can be a problem. But Deuce Vaughn, serious. Like, he is a problem. So
he's real.
We'll see how
Shout
it
out
goes.
to Chris
It'll be
Vaughn.
fun. Yeah, shout out to Chris. All right, so here's the next question for you guys. More important for the second half of the season and the postseason, stopping the run on the defense or offensively scoring 30 points plus per game?
Ain't that what the Chiefs doing?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, neither one of them are things we're consistently doing that we're consistently seeing here with the Cowboys. So, which one do you think they need more heading down the rest of the season and into the playoffs if they're going to be successful?
I would think just the offense matching. I think the scoring for the offense.
You'll give up the run and do what they've been doing for 30-plus points a game.
Well, yeah, because in the run, I mean, like, people ain't just, besides this past week, people ain't just scoring on you in the run excessively. More importantly, like, a lot of the teams are running out of necessity because they cannot do anything else. So it's like, it's a matchup problem. So the run, like, and I have to remind myself of that when they're getting gashed in the run. You got to think teams are schematically just trying to run the ball on you because they are afraid to do anything else. So when you're seeing that your defense is seeing the brunt of like what's going on with that run, like it's like, okay, well, that they're dictating their offensive plan to run the ball. So I think that offensively, if you add scoring more points to them already trying to dictate that, you're causing them to make two changes. Like, oh, no, we have to go pass. We have to go score. But they're already planning and pre-planning. Jess made a fantastic point on our show. The Bears have been prepping for the Cowboys game 2 weeks prior. So that puts in perspective for you how much teams are trying to scheme to make sure they can run the ball successfully because passing is almost like for what?
Well, they don't risk their quarterback.
Yeah, that's what they don't want to risk their quarterback, but it also it's just difficult to have any time back there. So I would say the offense putting up points early because, again, there's not that many teams like the Bears that are like, and even DeMarcus Lawrence even talked about it. He was like, they were still running, and I think they expected them to start passing.
Yeah.
Most teams would start passing in those situations. So with that being said, make them make choices, business decisions.
Yeah, I got you.
So are we saying that this defense is still going to be able to do what it can do? Holding teams to 17 points or like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so if that's the case,
I mean, honestly, that's what they've been doing. They're holding teams to point. Like Aisha said, they're not giving up a ton of points. Yeah. They're giving up a bunch of yards, a bunch of rushing yards. So if they keep doing that, but they can get 30-plus points, which one do you prefer?
I'm going offensively then. Yeah, let this offense get 30-some points because then I think you become unbeatable. Because if your offense is putting up 30-some points a game, teams can't stick with the run consistently like that. We've seen Chicago, they tried to stick with the run, and they still got smacked by, 20-some points out there. Yep. So this defense is doing a heck of a job. They may not be able to stop the run, but when it comes to the red zone, they are great. When it comes to forcing teams to hit field goals instead of getting touchdowns. And I believe if you can continue with that formula and have this defense only giving up 17 points per game and you have your offense exploding, then, I mean, the sky's the limit. Because this team was still able to put up or still able to win games when your offense was struggling out there. When Dak Prescott wasn't in there for 5 games, your defense and your team was still winning because they were holding teams to such low points out there. If they're able to continue to do that by giving up maybe 150 yards rushing in the game, I'll take that as long as your offense is explosive as well. They become them pretty much an unbeatable team there.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. We don't have much time, but I got to ask this one last question because I got to get you guys on the record on this one. Which camp do you fall in? Because this is the biggest conversation going on about the Cowboys right now on social media.
He make me sick.
Pollard should get more carries or keep things as they are.
Ooh.
How many carries did he get?
14.
14? He all right. That's fine. And I think he'd agree after saying how winded he was after the game. All right. That's my thoughts on it. That's fine. I mean, 14, I mean, about in that range, like, it's fine to me. And I think that's going to be good for his body and for what he does for this team. I'm good with it. Maybe a few more.
Without a doubt. I'm good with that as well. 14 carries to me is good. I mean, he's that change of pace back. We understand what Zeke brings to the table. He's that tenderizer. He gets teams, worn down. So then Tony Pollard comes in there and busts a big one. I like where he's at right now, that 14, between 14 and 18 carries. I think you get the most out of Pollard. You're not wearing him down. You still get that explosiveness with that carry amount. So I'm good where it's at. And then, next year we'll come to the table again.
Yeah, I would even say, I'm good with that number being between 10 and 15 a game. Like, to me, I look at Tony Pollard as the kind of guy, and this goes back, I know Patrick Walker wrote a really good article yesterday where he had some time. They all the media talked to Skip Pete yesterday, but he was quoting Skip in some of the stuff that he was saying. And going back to training camp, this was something I talked to Skip about. He is very convicted on the idea that you need two backs, and especially when you got two backs that have two different running styles. He's the way he describes it is it's a lot different. And Barry, you probably can appreciate this as being a former safety. Your angle when you're trying to hit Dak and how you're approaching Dak, Zeke when he's running the ball, how you're going to attack him is very different than Tony. So if you're doing that, you're hitting Zeke, you're trying to get to where he's going to be, you're trying to make the tackle, and then all of a sudden you got Pollard coming at you, your angle's all messed up. How you approach him, how you have to hit him, all that stuff is now different, and you force defenses to have to adjust on the fly when Tony Pollard has the ball versus when Zeke has the ball. And he says that makes a huge difference, something he's always believed in as a coach here in the NFL. And so when you look at it from that standpoint, I think there's a lot being made about nothing. I don't think this is a problem. I actually think this running game is a strength, and I know people say you can get better at it, but is that really going to be better? Tony Pollard, I think, actually performs best when he's in that 10 to 15 carry mode. And trying to get above that, you're probably going to get it's going to be the law of diminishing returns.
And then, especially, not only safeties, but defensive line as well. Because when you're holding on to that block, you see, all right, Zeke, I got some time to, kind of play with this because he's going to hit the hole a lot slower. Then, boom, here comes Pollard hitting that hole. You got to, get off your block even quicker. So that change of pace, like you said, it works in the secondary as well as the defensive line. And I think they hit gold. This little thunder and lightning combo they got going on right now, it's pretty legit.
Yeah, it's working. And I don't think that's something you necessarily need to mess with. There are lots of other things you can mess with on this team if you want to just go and look for things to get crazy and wild about. That's not one of them.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
As you go. All right, we appreciate you guys joining us. I appreciate you guys coming in here.
Thanks for having me.
Break. And don't be a stranger. If anytime you want to come through, you're more than welcome to come through. I'll kick somebody out for y'all to get seats.
I'm going to come bust in this one.
All right. For Barry Church, Aisha Morrison, I'm Derek Eagleton. This has been The Break live on DallasCowboys.com radio.
Which one is it? Bye.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?